Dear everybody, welcome here in Copenhagen in this fantastic venue. And we are so happy to see all of you here. And from the happy faces, I can see that this is a feeling that we share. So we're going to share a lot today together. And we are here in this place near the harbor that's a little rough around the edges, that really testifies of hard work. So we feel right at home, right? Because we do gender equality work, which is hard work. So today, we are here for this conference on the future of gender equality, inclusivity, and democratic values in European academia. So it's a strong agenda that we are working on today. So my name is Yvonne Benschop, and I am from Radboud University, and I'll be moderating today. So if you have any questions or things that you want to ask, just put your hand up and I'll make sure that you get to ask that question. So it's my pleasure to be here because we have this fantastic program of speakers from all over Europe. We have experts, and there's also plenty of opportunity for you to share your insights and ideas, and plenty of time to network. So get to know some new people here, because we are all working on the same things, right? And it's so fantastic that usually we are in our own places and we're battling and we're struggling and we deal with all the resistances. But today we are amongst ourselves. And to sort of have this kind of inspiration is really very fascinating and inspiring for all of us, I hope. So we have people from different backgrounds and roles. We have academics, we have practitioners, we have policymakers, we have politicians. So it's really all of the crowd that can push this agenda further. So to tell you what we are going to do, the program of today. So in the morning, we will start with getting to know a bit more about the different projects, and especially about the SPEAR project. And all of these fantastic people of the SPEAR project are right here in front of you. So they will tell you about what they are doing. Then we hear from all of the sisters in this big gender equality family. And it's a very large family with many, many siblings. I think we will be hearing about 25 other projects. So they will be pitching you after the break. Then that goes into a networking event. So they will give you pitches and then go to their stalls and you can ask them questions and learn more about their projects. And that goes into the lunch. And then after the lunch, we will have a panel first, a panel on the core theme of this conference. Then we will be having workshops, and all of you have on your name tags, if you pick them up, which I sincerely hope that you did, there is this one colored dot, and that colored dot signifies which workshop you will be going to. After the workshop, we all reconvene for the final round table. And that will be the end of the day already. So this is what we have in store for you. A few practicalities. So there will be more breaks. There will be, the first part of this will be hybrid. So there's also people at home, and we really want to welcome them and appreciate that they took the time to come to this final conference and learn more about SPEAR and the other projects. A few practicalities. We have two halls here. Now we are in the blue hall. Next door is the green hall. So when we go to the break, we will stay in the green hall to hear about the sister projects. And I'll be telling you each time where we will be. The toilet facilities are outside, and they're clearly marked. Smoking is also outside, so for you who smoke, there are some places there where you can do that. And we are not recording this session, and we kindly ask of you to also not record this. And that is because we really want to have what is in the room today will also stay in the room. That gives us the opportunity to share thoughts that are not completely finished, the work that is under development, and really we want to have some confidentiality of what people are saying here today. So it may be that we touch on sensitive topics. We definitely will touch on sensitive topics. So please, you need to handle this with care, and we trust that we can count on you for that. Then there are assistants that will be helping you through the day. And they are right over there, and they are waving at us. So if you need something, go to the people who are waving at us right now. They can help you. There are hydration stations in both halls. There is coffee in both places. And there will be food, a lot of food for thought, but also actual food, also at those particular stations. Lunch will be from around 12, but that will go sort of naturally with the networking event that you can do with all the sister projects in the hall next door. The bus transportation back, the buses will leave here at 6 o'clock outside where they also dropped us. So by that time, you will have had a full day, hopefully with new acquaintances and a lot of new ideas to keep you going to the next phase of all of this. When we will be returning from breaks, you will be hearing a signal. And can I have that signal sounding one time? Here it comes. It's sort of glooming. Raising expectations from what is to come. Yeah? So when you hear that, you know breaks are done, we go to the next phase. Okay, so now it is such a pleasure to introduce the first two speakers of today, and I'm sure you all know them, so they don't need an introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because if it wasn't for them, we were not here today. They organized this in each and every detail, and if you ever organized a conference, you know how much work goes into that. They did all of that and then 10 times better. So please let me introduce first Eva Sophia Myers. She has a... I'm going to tell you a few things about her. And some of you may know this, but not everybody may know this already. So Eva Sophia has a background as a linguist, a psychologist, and more than 25 years of history of facilitating organizational change in academia. She has done that from an administrative position, but also as a consultant, an in-house consultant, and the last 12 years in the administrative pillar of the university governance. So in the past 15 years, she has become increasingly oriented towards gender equality as a driver for organization development, and since 2017 has been leading the University of Southern Denmark's Strategic Gender Equality Initiative, which is an outcome of the SDU's participation in the FP7 FESTA project. Not least with SPEAR, Eva Sophia has been able to contribute to national agendas concerning gender equality, the fight against sexism, and the implementation of gender equality plans in the Danish context. Can I hear it again for Eva Sophia Myers? And then, of course, we also very much welcome her partner in crime, Liv Bisner. Things you always wanted to know about Liv, Liu, you say, right? Liu. But were afraid to ask. So she She has a master's in business, language, and culture, and her background counts 14 years of experience as a leader and director partner in the private sector with human resources. Human resources, of course. She is so good at human resources. Her experiences include recruitment, administrative processes, and driving organizational change and transition processes. Liu has worked with gender equality in academia exclusively since joining the FESTA project at SDU in 2012, so now for 10 years. And since 2013, she has been a member of SDU's Central Gender Equality Board. And Liv, together with Eva Sophia, is the co-coordinator of the National Network of Gender Equality Practitioners in the Danish university sector, JER Denmark. And she chairs their steering committee. Moreover, they are both also involved in two sister projects, Inspire and Gender Action Plus, and both of those projects are really happy to have them. So together, they have worked very close as a team from conceiving of SPEAR through today. And once again, please give them a warm hand of applause. I'm giving over to you.
And can you hear me? You can also hear me now? Yes? And I'll turn this off for now. Okay, so we have a speech. And some of you saw how we do things yesterday, and we'll continue in that vein today. So, welcome to SPEAR's final conference. Welcome to Copenhagen, and also welcome online.
Welcome. In celebration of this first day of spring, there's much to celebrate, much to explore, much to take further, even if the world is also suffering war, earthquake, and hardship.
This event has come to mean a lot to us over the past year of preparation that we've done together in the consortium. All along, we wanted it to be about the impact of gender equality efforts. And of course, we wanted to show what SPEAR has done. But it also rather quickly became apparent that the connection between gender equality and a much wider agenda was inspired and envisioned through the considerable work of all our partners. This work takes place in big and small ways through connecting with the grand challenges of the UN Sustainable Goal Development, for instance, the human rights agenda, ethics, reproductive rights, and Me Too movements.
Not to mention the ongoing engaging with policymakers and civil society actors outside of academia.
And all of it speaks of the courage and the vision and the mobilization of our team members that has gone well beyond the framework of employment and project contracts.
So, we decided to explore the connection between gender equality, inclusiveness, and democratic values as part of the same agenda. Who said ambitious? Who said visionary? Who said crazy? Way out, far too much. But of course, nothing less would do.
And in the end, it wasn't so far out either, because these connections have become clear to us in SPEAR in various ways. Each of our partners have come up against challenges and have had to re-examine the values and what drives us time and again. In this, of course, we align ourselves with all our colleagues who do this kind of work. It is still the case that it is part and parcel of the work we do on a more or less daily basis.
But in addition, we also faced severe challenges as a consortium. We suddenly and inadvertently found ourselves in a situation where the core of our values and the very foundation on which this type of project stands came under attack, both direct and indirect attack. And this does not even begin to touch on what some of our team members were subjected to. A very bewildering and painful situation, but which we were fortunate that the Commission recognized as a real threat. The consortium came together, stood together, and with the Commission's backing, we managed to recover not only our collective and individual dignity, but also funds we thought would otherwise be lost to us.
So, the consortium then decided to put this unexpectedly recovered treasure to use by supporting the vision of the conference with emphasizing collaboration and community. So we were suddenly able to invite people we've been working with and very important stakeholders to us, and also our sister projects.
In so many ways, we see this as a once-in-a-lifetime event, an occasion to mark, to celebrate the sweetness and richness of this community and what we are able and capable of when we succeed in acting in accordance with our values, ethics, and integrity. And to actively step into the light, into the know, into where we are able to take a stand.
So a little bit about SPEAR. SPEAR has been an enriching experience for all of us in the project. We've been very busy the last 4 years and a little bit, and now we have 2 more months and time to wrap up and close down. And what a period these 4 years have been, not only for us in SPEAR, but for the world.
In terms of gender equality, the GEP requirement of Horizon Europe and ERC brings together many in the main positive developments.
And in more broad and global terms, we've also suddenly become very painfully aware of the precarious states of our political systems, our climate, our health, our economy, and our safety and welfare.
Yeah. And both these 2 aspects are relevant for today's conference theme, the future of gender equality, inclusiveness, and democratic values in European academia, practices, prerequisites, pushbacks, and perspectives.
So even if we have a narrow focus, or rather narrow focus, on European academia, this potentially encompasses the entire world. It's a prism for the larger society of which we're part, and maybe more importantly, it's a significant democratic educational institution with the obligation and privilege to serve as role models and protectors and educators for the future.
To us, another absolutely amazing and once-in-a-lifetime fact of today is that represented here are 25 current or recent sister projects and other initiatives across EU besides SPEAR. And this is only what has been announced, so scratch anyone here and find many more projects, collaborations, initiatives crisscrossing EU, the world, decades, age gap, disciplines, backgrounds.
So take a moment to look around and look at all these people that we are looking at and see how many competent, inspiring, and accomplished people were present. We think this is rather fantastic.
Yeah, it gives us at least hope and confidence that it is possible to come together to celebrate our collective wealth of experience and expertise and support our community to collaborate rather than compete.
Go ahead.
At the start of SPEAR, we boldly stated that one of our core values in the project was to see difference as the greatest teacher. Taking stock, we can say with both pride and humility that in fact this has been a guiding value. Respect for differences and contexts, interest in how to learn from the varying experiences and each other, and in the end also be deeply touched by our collective sincerity and earnest efforts.
So in 2020, when we in SPEAR, probably everywhere also, were all suffering lockdown, collective anxiety, online meetings from morning till night, and in desperate need of dreaming and hoping, we in the consortium created a series of future scenarios of gender equality work. Do you remember? I remember very, very vividly. They have made a very deep impression on me because these scenarios were full of wishes, hopes, technical, and not quite so unrealistic real-world solutions. They were also full of fantasy and visits from outer space and visits to fortune tellers and all kinds. But it was also full of dystopian nightmares.
Yeah, all were testimony to this consortium's rich creativity and ability to envision reality.
And all of them pointed to different ways to take responsibility, to step up, fight for the underrepresented, the vulnerable, ensuring equal access, equal opportunity, fairness, ethics, and the possibility to thrive. And also to keep working for it, even under threat, when effects are invisible, and when ripples only show later or pop up unexpected places.
So, what is this conference really about? It's the belief that sound and healthy communities, democracies, societies, systems must continuously develop. And this only happens when these find ways to offer their members room and terms for personal growth. Today is the fruit of our beautiful collaborative effort, and this also gives you a taste of what SPEAR is about. Our whole consortium have been involved, but the main water carriers in this getting all the details sorted are our communication partner Europa Media and yours truly.
So, thank you. We'd like to thank a few different kinds of people. We'd like to thank the EU, the Commission, and also our project officer who would have been here today but couldn't. We want to thank them for the grant and the daily support and guidance, for being there when we needed them, for setting visionary objectives, and for insisting on quality. But maybe most importantly, for granting us possibilities and the platform for dynamic collaborations and time-bound constellations, which turn into lasting relations and deep connections across Europe, as well as insights, understanding, and empathy, and respect for different contexts and constraints. We firmly believe that this can actually move the world.
Yeah. We also want to thank our advisors in SPEAR, who have generously and unreservedly supported us with their expertise and their insights.
And we also want to thank our institutional leaders, those of us who are not themselves institutional leaders, but most of our institutional leaders have listened and challenged and in the end accepted our proposals.
Also, a heartfelt thank you to our moderator, our panelists, and workshop contributors. You are all such shining inspirations, and together, oh wow, I mean, what a beautiful multitude, what that will sustain and strengthen us.
And last but not least, our sister projects and colleagues across the EU. You are our friends and fellows. You inspire us and spur us on. And this happens whether you know or not. So we would really like to say to you all, keep going.
Yeah. As coordinators, we want to extend a deep thank you to our consortium.
Here comes.
Yeah.
Our dear SPEAR partners. In this project,
so much beautiful work has taken place.
Important dialogues with important people.
Significant steps towards inclusive institutions.
Deep embedding of ethical and equal processes.
Finding ways around resistance and fatigue.
Insisting that linguistic and philosophical details matter.
Finding solutions and compromises. New launching pads for work to come.
And finding each other in new constellations.
Living through challenges small and big. Lending each other support.
And all of it to advance equality out and beyond the normal sphere.
Coupling with larger societal challenges.
Upholding democratic values.
Yeah. Emboldening our work through aesthetics and poetics.
Coupling with art, with storytelling, and with humor. Our experience as coordinators is one of very deep privilege. Taking this journey with you is full of learning, inspiration, delight.
Heart.
And light. Thank you. So, Our final words, and we promise it'll be final words. There are many ways to offer insight into what a project is about, so we have chosen to do it in a not quite so classical final conference way.
So, in the spirit of SPEAR, we sincerely wish for this day to be full of magic and heart and light.
Magic, just as we said yesterday also, of encounters and interactions and in the silences in between.
The heart in beautiful friendships to blossom or rekindle today in ideas that will spring forth.
So our hope is that we together can let the light shine, bright, warm and strong on what is possible, on clarity of vision, on realism in seeing the world for what it is in all of its complexity.
With warmth in interactions, strength and ambition in purpose, and in standing up together for what we value and believe.
This to us is feminism.
This to us is democracy.
This to us is what this day is about.
Welcome.
Now, thank you.
Thank you so much for that. A day of feminism and democracy. So fantastic day. They cannot be different. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you, and I've been sort of dreading this moment a little bit because I'm introducing to you Snezhnana Prijic Samardzija. And I am butchering her name, and I'm so sorry for that. She is here in many, many capacities. She is here as the SPEAR team leader of the recreant Croatian partner. She is here as director of the University of Rijeka, as active for gender equality on so many levels in all the contexts that she takes part. So she is currently the leader of Jeroen, which is the Young European Research Universities Network, of which 2 other SPEAR partners are also a member. But she's also active in UFE and EWORA, the network of female rectors. So Snezhnana is a professor of philosophy and has in SPEAR and in Croatia continuously pushed the boundaries for how to put gender equality on the agenda and keep it there, not least in connection to this conference. She was one of the main voices for lifting up this collective insight into the connections between gender equality and other large agendas, both pro and con. So a warm welcome to our visionary and effective leader in European academia. Snezhnana, I give happy over to you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now she's getting her mic on because otherwise she will not be, yeah, and now, can I change this? I can change this, yes. Otherwise we cannot hear her, and that would be such a loss because, all good.
I'm ready now.
Here you go.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Almost.
Okay. Good morning. Dear participants of the SPEAR Final Conference, dear friends, sisters, siblings, dear all, what to say? After Liv and Eva Sofia, before I start with my, opening speech, I would like, to share with you that I feel definitely privileged to be a part of the SPEAR Consortia, SPEAR project, to be with all these beautiful, beautiful people. And of course, thank you very much for the opportunity to give here, to share my thoughts and give here opening speech. So, my slides. No. I prepared a PowerPoint because I think that I can easily to communicate my ideas with you. So, yeah, I noticed before that they are there. Yeah? No, it was, at the, yeah. So,
Oops, sorry.
this
It's
is,
a touch screen.
so this is the first.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Here is the plan of my presentation. It's very simple, as you can see, the past, the present, and the future. But I would like at first to share with you some ideas about the hidden history of the hidden and unknown women scientists, then something about the present, advancements in policies and figures, and finally about the future, about the prospective challenges. So, the first question for all of you. Will you try to recall some world-famous women researchers? Please try to recall and try to count how many did you remember. I suppose the first is this lady, Marie Sklodowska-Curie, the first female Nobel Prize winner, the first person who won a Nobel Prize twice, and the only person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 scientific fields. Yes, we started with Marie Curie. Probably some of you recall Valentina Tereshkova, no, the first woman in space. Jane Goodall, primatologist who changed our understanding about the chimpanzees, or maybe Katherine Johnson. Probably you watched the movies about the hidden figures and all these, hidden women behind, and work very hardly on the NASA computer. And Ada Lovelace? No, yes, the daughter of the Lord Byron, probably more famous on that, but she was amazing in mathematics. Mary Anning, discovered the first complete fossil of a dinosaur. Caroline Herschel, the first woman who discovered a comet. Oh, unknown women. Sophia Louise Jacques Blake, one of the Edinburgh 7 who fought to study medicine. No, neither me, I have to confess. Rosalind Franklin, probably, vaguely, we remember, the person who contributed to discover the structure of DNA. Dorothy Hodgkin, Enslin, researchers, Danish, very famous Danish, scientists who actually discovered the composition of the Earth core. Okay, not so much of them. Probably you can recall some Nobel Prize awarded women. Yes, you know that until 2000, only 30 women actually were being awarded by the Nobel Prize, but in the last 23 years, 31. I'll try to also recall what was really, the Nobel laureates that I can recall, and what is the Nobel laureates you can recall. And I remember Annie Ernaux, Doris Lessing, Pearl Buck, Alice Munro, Alfred Jelinek, all of them are actually writers. Okay, it's probably talks much about me than about the general picture, but actually no, there are only 4 women in physics who were awarded by the Nobel Prize, 8 in chemistry, much more in health, much even more in literature, much even more for peace. So the gap between the health and art and humanities on the one side, and on the other side, STEM and the other research areas, were existent in the past. So what was my first conclusion? there are far fewer women in the history of science than men, we know that, even if they succeeded to entering the male world of science, their work and findings were hidden or ascribed to their male colleagues. Women scientists were and still are not visible. There are no institutes, no chairs at the universities, no other institution or institutes, named by the women with significant contributions. Only Marie Skłodowska-Curie co-found, the program of funding the young researchers. But we can notice a slight improvement in the last 20 years. What about the present? What about the advancements in policies and figures? Of course, we have the gender equality strategy. We have a lot of policies, that actually try to improve the gender equality policies in our institutions. Of course, the crucial element, Horizon Europe, when the gender equality plans are actually the eligibility criterion for applying for money. Yes, we know that we have European research area with a policy agenda, and that between the 10 priorities here is the actually priority that we need to promote gender equality inclusiveness at our institutions, of course, famous declaration about the gender equality. Yes, in Jeroen, in my research network, we are strongly committed to the gender equality. All our university has, and we are very proud and very on the gender equality plans of the very, very high quality. European University Association, so many events actually devoted to the gender equality. So many forums, European Institute for Gender Equality, chair statements, so many good things, in policies, and fantastic conferences like our final conference. Yeah, but what about the figures? So just, to remind on the Gender Equality Index, so this is the score from the 2020, then 2021, then 2022. So we can notice a kind of improvement in the general score of the gender equality. Of course, we can also notice the gap between the countries with high score in the north and the west of Europe, and let us say below the average score, in the south and the east of Europe. So the gap we actually noticed also in the other area, in the innovation scorecard. But also, the colleagues from Institute said to us that this improvement is so slow. Also, European Commission produces these SHE figures, very, very important tool, data collection, and I do not want to enter, I do not have enough time, but just, to show some of the figures. Yes, women are close to reaching gender parity among doctoral graduates, but they are still underrepresented in technical professions. In addition, more women work under precarious contracts than their male counterparts. Also, women are underrepresented at the highest level of academia. We all actually know that, but we have here now the fresh data. Also, there are very, very strongly underrepresented in the decision-making position. Only 23% of women are actually, are presidents, rectors, heads at the academic institutions. Yeah, the figures actually come worse and worse. Women are less successful than men in accessing reaching research funding, and they're significantly underrepresented among inventors. Only 10.7%. Okay, some more data. I will pass very briefly because, we know many of them. This is the data from EU multi-rank gender monitoring, so comparing the universities in Europe, and you can notice here these famous scissors. Yes, we have more students at BA and MA level, but then, switched When we are talking about the PhD students, academic professors, rectors, much more and more males than females. Also, women are particularly underrepresented among academic staff at research-intense institutions. Yes, we can and we know about this kind of gap. So in STEM fields, the women are still typically underrepresented. And let us say we can notice this kind of gap between the humanities and health on the one side, and on the other side, of course, STEM, even social sciences area. So, still our worlds actually are apart, so concerning the number of students, you can also notice that in the domain of health, in the domain of education, in the domain of social sciences and humanities and some study programs, there are more women, and then, actually less women than male. So we do not have completely imbalanced situation. So my second conclusion about the present. Despite significant achievements at a policy level, increased awareness of the lacking gender equality in academia, and growing numbers of initiatives that address the issue of diversity, change is slow and inequalities remain. Gender has been and still is a significant dimension of inequality in higher education. No demographic characteristic is so fraught with the stereotypes as that of gender at our universities. So, the future, prospective challenges. Yes, in European strategy for universities, it's put that universities need to be lighthouses of European way of life. And yes, universities definitely, we believe strongly that, are among the most influential institutions of social change and the promotive of gender equality, inclusivity, and diversity. However, in academia, we still cope with the following: the persistence of gender imbalances and pay gaps at both the top and the bottom levels of the academic hierarchy, gender segregation across academic disciplines and activities. We also cope with the lack of integration of gender perspectives in teaching and research. Yes, incidents of sexual harassment and assaults, and broad range of challenges, depending, of course, on the context, about the recruitment, selection of career progression, work-life balance, also cyber violence against women, etc., etc. Yes, we have gender equality plans, and we actually feel that, and this gender equality plan action initiatives actually develop a lot of enthusiasm and positive experiences at the universities. However, JEPs are restricted to their instrumental, rational, and top-down policy interventions, and gender equality plans are not designed to cope with new emergencies and increased complexity of our environment, such as, of course, severe threats to democracy, human rights, and rule of law. Yeah, okay, I need to be very, very quick now. The cascade of crises that actually threaten our quality of life. And, of course, gender equality plans cannot cope with the social polarization that manifests also in the constructions of new masculinities and the resurgence of patriarchy on the one side and the man's increased engagement on the gender equality on the other. So we have kind of new polarization. Okay, we need, I know that I have only 2 minutes, we need a subtler and qualitative approach, of course, the new topics about the implicit gender biases, significant source of inequity through past and today in academia is actually implicit gender biases, stereotypes and prejudices inbuilt deeply into collective and institutional memories, concepts, and our culture. I do not know that you know what is actually the implicit gender biases. Yes, now we are much more aware of that. However, we also need to be aware that focusing on individual implicit biases actually you know, there is a threat of that we depoliticize, you know, gender inequity, shifting focus away from historical, social, structural, and political context where these inequities are produced and maintained. Gender inequity cannot be separated from the broader context of class, race, ethnicity, geographic location, etc., etc. The binary approach, actually, you know, of men, women in the implicit gender biases approach excludes non-binary persons from the conversation, and of course, the focus on the implicit gender bias actually exclude explicit gender bias that actually still exists in our communities. So, my final conclusions, yes, the title of our conference, The Future of Gender Equality, Inclusiveness and Democratic Values in European Academia, actually lies, according to me, in a sounder understanding of the power of collaboration. But Leo and Eva Sophia actually, tells everything about that. We need collectivism, collective sincerity, of course, of all social stakeholders, deliberation, different perspectives, standing in another shoes, expanding our horizons. We need the long-term perspective, long-termism. You know, not think just on the quick wins, but, you know, on the sustainable and resilient institutions and oral system. And we need active engagement and robust institutional European collaboration. My second conclusion here, we need to diversify our policies and practice, of course, gaps, of course, implicit gender biases removal. Yes, we need to identify and develop very concrete contextualized policies and practice, but we need to continue to strengthen the democratic values, freedom, and human rights protections. And yes, we are all aware that we have this is our present and not, I hope, you know, our future, the anti-democratic turn in Europe and Eurasia. Yes, this is the report from the 2025. The democracy is under the siege. Yes, the democracy defenders sustain heavy new losses in the struggle with the authoritarian regimes. Yes, the global expansion of authoritarian rule, the report from the last year. And yes, the question from, and the conclusion from the human rights actually report, with autocrats on the defensive, can democrats rise on the occasion? Yes, my answer is, you know, the famous quote of the Emma Goldman. The most violent element in society is ignorance, but not ignorance as the lack of knowledge, but the ignorance as the resistance to acquire a knowledge. So, and my last point, Yvonne's story, joint commitment to European values, dignity, solidarity, and equity, and the European ideas of harmony, perpetual peace, is the answer, as well as the enlightenment and the rule of reason. So thank you very much, and excuse me, you know, for saying the time.
How do I go? Thank you so much, Snezhana, for this very interesting talk and leaving us with these famous words of Emma Goldman. It's now my pleasure to go to the next speaker, who is Joanna Drake, and she will be joining us online. She has been the Deputy Director General of the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation since 2021. In this role, she provides overall assistance to the Director General in the management of the DG, contributing to the definition, coordination, and implementation of strategy and policy orientation. Joanna Drake has a long track record of leading positions in the Commission. With a background as a Doctor of Law, her extensive experience with international law, and with her leadership roles in a number of the important developments and challenges with which the EU is responding to, from cancer to Brexit, it is a very great honor for us to have Ms. Joanna Drake here with us from Brussels today to address the challenge of gender equality and how the Commission has made this agenda a priority.
Thank you so much, and really have been inspired by the opening remarks and also by the presentation just now. But I'm sure that this has been the reality all along in the SPEAR project. So it's really a great pleasure for me to join you today at this final conference organized by the SPEAR project and to represent the Directorate for Research and Innovation. So this final conference does not only mark the end of a project, it is also the time to celebrate and also to recognize all the work you have achieved in the past 4 years. Well, SPEAR, as you know, was funded under Horizon 2020 to initiate an institutional change through the development and implementation of the so-called gender equality plans, the GEPs, in 9 research-performing organizations. Now, we started the project long before it was announced that the gender equality plans would be an eligibility criterion for higher education institutions, research organizations, and public bodies from member states and associated countries if they want to receive funding from Horizon Europe. Indeed, gender equality plans have been proven to be one of the most transformative tools to achieve long-term sustainable advancement towards gender equality in research and innovation. But then gender equality plans themselves are indeed not new. The 2012 communication on the European research area already invited research stakeholder organizations to develop such plans, and the European Commission has been funding projects to set up and implement gender equality plans ever since. Now, institutional change is essential to create a system where both men and women researchers have equal opportunities for career progression. And we need such institutional change, as in Europe, we cannot afford to lose out on half of the talents in science and innovation because of unattractive careers and working conditions for women. Now, with this project, you have been agents of change. You have spread knowledge about gender equality with your academic networks and developed a plethora of materials such as the SPEAR's Compass Guide for Gender Equality Measures, which is helpful for any organization who's seriously starting its journey progress to set up and implement the gender equality plans. This is exactly what we expect from our funded projects: the stimulation of discussion, but also putting forward change and also the inspiration that rolls out and keeps on rolling out after that. The European Commission is committed to gender equality in research and innovation. Beyond the new eligibility criteria in Horizon Europe, we made the integration of a gender dimension into all research and innovation actions mandatory by default. Embedding sex and gender-based analysis into all fields of research and innovation, and adopting an inclusive approach that considers intersecting social categories such as ethnicity, age, or disability, allows for the production of excellent research to the benefit of all citizens across Europe and the world. In 2022, we launched a new EU award for gender equality champions to recognize academic and research organizations that have achieved outstanding results in the implementation of the gender equality plan. The winners will be announced on the occasion of International Women's Day next week on the 8th of March, and I shall have the pleasure as well to meet the winners here in Brussels. To progress on gender equality, we aim to do more, and we aim to do so collectively, building on outcomes and good practices stemming from projects like SPEAR. At the final conference of today, a core aim is to discuss the future of gender equality and inclusivity. Making our policies more inclusive and intersectional is one of our priorities in line with the European Research Area Policy Agenda for 2022 and 24, which is our common policy framework to make progress. Action 5 of this agenda is dedicated to promoting gender equality and fostering inclusiveness among the 4 interlinked deliverables of this action. And we aim to ensure gender equality in working environments through institutional change in any research funding or research performing organization, and also to develop a strategy to counteract gender-based violence, including sexual harassment, in the European research and innovation system. We shall work together with member states, with associated countries and stakeholder organizations in the context of the ERA Forum, which will soon be creating a subgroup dedicated to the implementation of this Action 5 I've just described, on promoting gender equality and fostering inclusiveness. To close the gender gap in research, we must all be united and committed to make it happen seriously. Thank you for your invitation to the conference, and I wish you fruitful discussions and lots more inspirations for the years to come.
Thank you. Now, the next part of our program here is a pre-recorded presentation of the SPEAR project. We get to see them at their best, talking about objectives, methodology, output and impact, insofar as that presents itself today here at the end of the project. So this presentation has been prepared prior for today, and we're very happy to feature some of SPEAR's team and the work package leaders and some of SPEAR advisors. Sit back, listen and learn and enjoy.
Welcome to a presentation on the SPEAR project. I'm Eva Sophia Myers and I'm the Executive Coordinator of SPEAR.
And I'm Liv Beisner-Petersen, Administrative Coordinator of SPEAR. Together, we have the honor of walking you through a short, and we hope sweet, presentation of the project that lies so close to our hearts.
In this presentation, we will highlight important aspects of gender equality work in European academia, at least seen from our perspective. Our focus will be on SPEAR's impact and what we think will reach well beyond the project's lifetime. To our mind, this is a fitting way to get our final conference going.
But let's start with the basics. SPEAR is an European Horizon 2020 funded project with a grant of 3 million euros. We started January 1st, 2019, and the project runs until the end of April 2023. We are 11 partners, 9 universities and 2 technical partners covering communication and evaluation. Our national contexts are very different. 2 with well-established gender equality infrastructure and legislation. It's Sweden and Germany. Then 1 country is reported of making good progress. It's Denmark. And then a total of 4 countries reported of having little or low gender equality performance, and it's Lithuania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Portugal.
When we designed SPEAR, back when we wrote the proposal about 5 years and what now seems like a lifetime ago, the world was different seen from a gender equality lens. SPEAR and our Horizon 2020 sister projects were tasked with one primary objective: to implement gender equality plans, also known as GEPs. GEPs are not merely action plans, but should be understood as a set of comprehensive measures at many different organizational levels to drive institutional and structural change towards gender equality in academia. The framework for these projects was the European Research Area's Gender Equality Priority, and back then this was defined as having 3 objectives as the state of the art. The first was to remove barriers and improve career prospects for women in academia. The second was to improve gender balance in decision-making bodies and also processes. And the third was to strengthen the gender dimension in teaching and research content. These 3 objectives form the very core of SPEAR, along with a 4th objective, namely to increase the number of European research-performing organizations with implemented GEPs. Note, then, that SPEAR started in 2019, and this was well before 2022, strangely enough, when the Horizon Europe GEP eligibility criterion became a reality. So SPEAR and our sister projects have been in the very privileged position of being able to forge new paths and set new standards, develop resources and practices, and support the growing and glowing community of gender equality practitioners in academia.
And since then, the European Research Area has been revised and updated, and we wholeheartedly support these developments, both on our behalf, but also on our colleagues' behalf. Because as anyone who has worked with designing and implementing gender equality measures is aware, it's not an easy task. In SPEAR, we have experienced this firsthand in different ways. For a number of our partners, SPEAR is the first time this kind of comprehensive systemic gender work takes place on an organizational scale.
That is, many of us have started fresh.
And on a blank canvas.
Blazing new trails. In respect for our different contexts, SPEAR's approach has from the very start been, 1, to take individual, organizational, and national contexts into account and as points of departure, but also as sources for mutual insight and inspiration, no matter what each of us came with in terms of background, experience, and knowledge.
And second, to provide timely and tailored support to the gender equality practitioners in our consortium.
And also, the third approach has been to ensure a space for continuously encourage learning, support, and collaboration.
And finally, to always take this longer view of sustained efforts and network building into account. Our core task has been our GEPs, to be carefully designed, negotiated, implemented, and embedded. SPEAR's GEPs draw on extensive engagement of relevant stakeholders and gatekeepers. And if you were to study our GEPs, and you find them on SPEAR's webpage, you will come across highly innovative measures, collaborations, solutions, and structures. We have relied on openly available state-of-the-art knowledge, theory, and practice. And we have also found a lot of resources from other European-funded gender equality projects.
Indeed. We in SPEAR are certainly happy to have been able to contribute to this wealth in ways that we will come back to in a minute. Especially since the GEP requirement in Horizon Europe became a reality, SPEAR GEPs have served as inspiration for gender equality work in national and sometimes even regional contexts. SPEAR partners are called on to supervise and support others in their efforts. This is an important impact that we are especially proud of in SPEAR, something which is due to the quality, vision and reach of the GEP work that our partners have made. Uppsala University has led the coordination and support of this work. Let's now hear Minna Salminen Karlsson reflect on SPEAR's GEPs.
SPEAR has been a diverse consortium, and we have had very different conditions for our gender equality work. For example, we have several partners from post-communist countries, and so we have partners who have many women in powerful positions, or many women in disciplinary areas that in European policies often automatically are considered as male-dominated and problematic. Also, in post-communist countries, childcare is often not such a big problem. Instead, these post-communist SPEAR partners have more often met with other, we could say, norm-based issues because of very strong conservative gender ideologies, both nationally and in the organizational contexts. Another important difference between SPEAR partners is that of university governance. We have learned that creating and implementing a GEP seems to be easier in a centralized university, as long as the central leadership is positive, of course. Because less anchoring is needed, university staff is used to policies being issued from above. Of course, not all people still comply, and awareness raising needs to be done, but creating a GEP in a decentralized university is a lot harder work. To start with, the plan needs to get acceptance from different parts of the university before being finally approved. Also, when it comes to implementation, different parts of university may want to do different things. However, on the positive side, this may also lead to more local engagement. In writing our GEPs, we followed the steps recommended in the GEAR tool by the European Institute of Gender Equality. And during the runtime of the project, the Horizon Europe Gender Equality Plan requirement came into force, and we welcomed it, of course, because it helped many of us to legitimize our work. But in our work, we also discovered some aspects where the GEAR tool and the Horizon requirements fall short. All the SPEAR partners writing GEPs are universities, and we found that one of the main tasks of universities, teaching, is poorly covered in them. Creating gender equality in teaching requires different work from promoting gender equal careers. Our GEPs have measures concerning teaching and students because we think they are extremely important, but they have been made largely without support or requirements from the EU documents. Another important area that is less developed in the GEAR tool is the role of the administrative staff. For example, we should think of gender equality also when it comes to their careers. In our GEP work, we have realized that it is essential that they are our allies, as they often are the people who finally perform the actions. Administrative staff collect statistics, they are part of recruitment processes, they take care of much of the communication, and so on. In our GEP work, they have been important actors in the groundwork when actions have been designed, and our actions need to consider also their work situation. So these are some of the takeaways from our GEP work.
Apart from our GEPs, one of SPEAR's main achievements is its learning and support methodology. The first aim of this support is, of course, to underpin and qualify SPEAR's own GEP implementation, but it has turned out to be much more than that. This methodology rests on the dynamic interaction between SPEAR's two communities, the community of learning and the community of practice, SPEAR's COL and COP.
That is two parts of the same cycle. Input on one hand and reflection on the other hand. Breathing in, breathing out. But first, SPEAR's community of learning. We have developed 14 live workshops for our consortium with relevant training, knowledge, and resources. These workshops are tailored to our partners' GEP progress and needs. They are hands-on and offer a high degree of contextual translation. We have covered topics such as gender equality data and monitoring, GEP implementation, engaging stakeholders, handling resistance, addressing sexual harassment, and the gender dimension in research design and teaching methodologies.
Second, Spear's COP. Our COP is a communal safe space. This is where we reflect together and openly explore and qualify our own and others' GE issues. This is where our daily practices and experiences are carefully considered together. And these exchanges take place in structured but ever-evolving formats, and this enables us to share serious concerns in ways that point to solutions and often alternative and creative ways of understanding the situation and then acting. Here we have covered such topics as dealing with resistance, practicing self-care, exploring creative methods for participatory intervention, how to understand the landscapes we navigate on a daily basis, and how to further our impact.
So these two communities have set the stage for learning, joint reflection, and support. But this approach has not just been limited to the activities in our communities. It characterizes the open exchanges we have in all Spear's interactions.
Indeed, this way of thinking and understanding support has actually from the outset been built into the project design. In two ways. Our communication efforts have enhanced and increased the reach of our call output in the form of our virtual materials.
Yeah, and our project evaluation has been designed to boost this learning and feedback loop and informs our individual and joint reflexive capacity and the quality of our efforts.
And all of this has in turn provided a very fertile ground for creative collaboration within SPEAR, and for empowering our members in their daily work, and for setting the stage for thinking big.
Now we want to show you SPEAR's virtual output, and this material stems from our community of learning. And the virtual materials, they come in different formats. It's like webinars, interactive live workshops, interviews, podcasts, and not least SPEAR's Compass guide for designing effective gender equality measures. And you find all of this on SPEAR's webpage. RWTH Aachen in Germany has been in charge of the creation of the virtual materials together with our dissemination and communication partner Europa Media. So here comes a teaser of our virtual and communication materials, first by Natalie Wolf and then by Gabriela Lovas.
So this is SPEAR's virtual materials page, where you can find all the virtual learning sessions developed during project runtime. In total, there are 14 virtual learning sessions, and you will find 11 audiovisual presentations on various topics related to gender equality plan development, implementation, and evaluation. So for example, there is a session on structures and stakeholders necessary for successful gender equality implementation. SPEAR's audiovisual presentations are visually attractive and intuitive to navigate. They contain a myriad of exercises and examples to help you apply the lessons learned at home. In addition, there are 2 podcast episodes, one on data monitoring and another one on the gender dimension in natural science research. And last but not least, there is SPEAR's Compass Guide, which is SPEAR's interactive web resource. So let's take a quick tour through SPEAR's Compass Guide. So what is SPEAR's Compass in fact? It's a holistic and practical approach that helps you draft an effective and sustainable gender equality plan and implement gender equality measures in your organization. For that, the landing page explains what SPEAR's Compass is, what the guide covers, as well as SPEAR's Compass guiding principles. The guide contains furthermore instructions on how to use it. SPEAR's interactive compass rose with guiding questions to help kickstart reflection. More than 20 good practice examples by the SPEAR Consortium for inspiration, as well as materials and exercises to help apply SPEAR's compass in practice.
Now that you had a sneak peek of the SPEAR's website, you know that SPEAR's graphic line is distinctive and recognizable. Using these visuals in our communication and dissemination efforts was helpful in maximizing our impact. SPEAR has made it a priority to keep challenging boundaries and communicate about gender equality topics, not only by engaging practitioners into our actions, but also targeting the general public more broadly. We have managed this through TV interviews, podcast series, blog posts, as well as our social media presence. Our collaboration online as well as offline with many of our sister projects is a clear testimony of the amazing power and commitment of the gender equality community. As the presence of more than 20 sister projects at this conference clearly shows.
Almost from the onset of SPEAR, partners have been oriented towards reaching out to and engaging with different kinds of stakeholders. This is crucial. This is how some of our most important impacts so far have been enabled. These efforts have been expertly and creatively driven by our partners, especially from national and/or regional and institutional contexts where gender equality was not common prior to SPEAR. We will now hear about what SPEAR has meant from our Lithuanian, Bulgarian, Portuguese, and Croatian partners.
In Lithuania, our two partners, Vilnius University and Vytautas Magnus University, are the first universities in their country to implement GEPS. They have worked hard to put gender equality on a wider national agenda. They have focused on issues such as human rights, ethics, equal opportunity and anti-discrimination, inclusion, well-being and work-life balance, sexual harassment, and gender-sensitive communication. A significant achievement of the Lithuanian teams is the establishment of a national gender equality network for practitioners and scholars, with the engagement of senior management, ombudsperson, and politicians. Let us hear Professor Aurelia Novelskaide from Vilnius University talk about SPEAR's significance in the Lithuanian context.
On the national level, we started building a national network of gender equality and equal opportunities workers who represent other universities in Lithuania. It is expected representatives from Ministry of Education, Science and Sport and the Research Council of Lithuania also will take part in activities of the network. In general, our work during the project SPEAR substantially foster equal opportunities in academic communities as well as in general society in Lithuania. And the international team of the project SPEAR was and still is invaluable impellant of all those processes, an exhaustible source of our inspiration. So thank you all, and all the best to all of us.
In Bulgaria, our two partners, Plovdiv University and International Business School Sofia, are also among the first universities to implement GEPS. Their deep knowledge of existing structures and strategic opportunities for collaborating with cross-cutting issues and organizations, such as ethics, ombudspersons, and labor organizations, have enabled highly innovative GEP approaches and measures in contexts that are not from the outset readily open for taking on gender equality. Thus, the Bulgarian teams apply humor in challenging ingrained gender stereotypes and are tackling the considerable challenge of debiasing publishing practices. The network that Plovdiv and IBS have started together is now expanding to include other important stakeholders within and beyond academia in Bulgaria. Here is Rector of IBS, Professor Georgi Apostolov, on SPEAR's significance in the Bulgarian context.
The SPEAR project has actually brought us and our work up to a completely new level of development and opened up an entirely new perspective we have started building a national network of people and institutions working in the field of gender equality in academia. Within the project, we started cooperating with another Bulgarian university, Plovdiv University, P.C. Hilendarsky, who are newcomers to the field of gender equality work. During the implementation of SPEAR, we were not only supporting each other very strongly in many ways, but we were constantly involving different stakeholders from our own institutions and from outside, like, for example, Academic Ethics Committee, promotional committees, the Higher Education Labor Union in the country, and other universities and associations. Thus, Plovdiv University was the first Bulgarian research-performing institution that officially adopted a gender equality plan. And our International Business School did it soon afterwards. Many other universities in the country followed. The results of SPEAR became a valuable source of specific information and know-how for many others. Evidence that our work was recognized and valued and that a national network was expanding was our jointly organized National SPEAR Conference in December last year, where many representatives of universities, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, public organizations dealing with human rights, discrimination, and gender issues participated. For me and my team, the project was an exciting journey along which we learned, apart from anything else, invaluable life lessons about real human sympathy and transnational support in tough periods of time when human values are challenged.
In Portugal, Nova University in Lisbon has from the outset of SPEAR been deeply engaged in promoting gender equality in Portuguese academia, both in organizational context and on a political scale. They have strengthened national collaboration and networking for gender equality and continues to contribute to national projects and initiatives. Due to the team's efforts in their own organization, Nova was in 2020 listed as the first Portuguese university in relation to the 5th SDG goal, gender equality. And in the spring of 2022, the Nova SPEAR team leader, Professor Elvira Fortunato, was appointed Minister of Science, Technology and Higher Education. So, now Minister Fortunato will present SPEAR's impact in the Portuguese context.
It is my concern to develop institutions that promote equality and that are more inclusive and tolerant, in line with the European Commission, who urges us to defend and increase gender equality. Portugal has made significant efforts to integrate gender equality into organizational structures, political strategies, and research content. The National Strategy for Equality and Non-Discrimination 2018-2030, Portugal More Equal, is aligned with the 2030 United Nations Agenda, establishing equality and non-discrimination as a condition for building a sustainable future for Portugal. For the first time, the national plans for equality address gender equality in higher education and in research and innovation, encompassing the diversity of measures.
In Croatia, the SPEAR team has continuously supported mutual exchange of experience and knowledge with local, regional, national and international communities, and collaborated with local government agencies, civil society actors, the Ombudsperson for Gender Equality, ambassadors and colleagues from other universities. They also supervise and support the development of GEPs at other institutions, not only in Croatia, but in the entire West Balkan region. The Croatian team never misses an opportunity to elevate the debate to include gender stereotyping, sexism, and gender-sensitive communication in the larger human rights and democracy agenda. Efforts that they are also increasingly recognized for. In this vein, they held a national conference on the threats to reproductive rights as a broad democratic issue. Rector of the University of Rijeka, Professor Snježana Prijić-Samaja, will now elaborate on SPEAR's impact in the Croatian context. This will be followed by a testimony by one of SPEAR's advisors, Mateja Medlobi.
After the SPEAR project, the University of Rijeka is no longer the same place. We are now essentially a more virtuous, equal and safe place, as well as a more inclusive institution. The Open University for Open Society is the University of Rijeka programmatic motto. Thanks to collective intelligence of the SPEAR team, intense self-reflection, dedicated research, invaluable collaboration, and extensive work within communities of learning and communities of practice, University of Rijeka now has institutional knowledge, policies, practices, and plans that will make us an even more open, more resilient, and more progressive European university of the future. We are proud. The University of Rijeka is the first Croatian and regional university to implement the gender equality plan. It is recognized, and we were awarded with a Fierce Women Award as the research performing organization with the greatest impact on gender equality. Based on our SPEAR experience, University of Rijeka became a supporting partner of the UNIGAM, University of Gender Mainstreaming Project in October 2021, which brings together 18 universities from the Western Balkan region, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Croatia. In addition to our intensive regional activities, we are connected at the European level with more than 30 European universities to our membership in the UFE European University Alliance and Jeroen Group. With UFE, we are working to implement a progressive diversity and inclusivity strategy, while Jeroen is now focusing on gender in research. We have begun also a transatlantic collaboration with the University of Toronto in Canada and its Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. Our research through the SPEAR project has revealed that the most pressing challenge for university community engagement is the issue of violence. Growing rates of femicide and gender sexual violence require a much broader response from all community stakeholders, including universities as democratic centers. Our goal is to raise awareness of the consequences of gender and sexual violence and to create and disseminate primary and secondary school curricula that address gender equality, women issues, and the prevention of sexual and gender-based violence in all aspects of social life. All this and much more than this that we did in our way would be completely impossible without SPEAR. So, thank you very much.
The SPEAR project, as a very big and relevant European project, through its activities, has given the opportunity to University of Rijeka, which is the Croatian participating partner, to gain new skills and new knowledge in gender equality in academia. But not only that, we have been given an opportunity to also share our vast experience we had in Croatia, namely through the rector and the professors' activities, which have already been done with the students. And in that way, actually, the whole Croatian society has benefited from the project itself. I think the biggest contribution from SPEAR to Croatia is definitely the fact that through the participation of Rijeka University, all of the students there, but also a broader circle of young people have been given the chance to shape European society and hopefully kind of create a better gender equal, social and just Europe.
As we hope has become clear, the SPEAR Consortium is competent, ambitious, and has shown impressive accomplishments. With SPEAR as the point of departure and also occasion, our partners have set bold agendas and followed through on them. And this, we think, is not least due to our joint capacity to establish and nurture a foundation for thinking together and acting accordingly.
In SPEAR's continuous evaluation, UANEUM research documents trends and characteristics of SPEAR.
Florian Holzinger will now elaborate on some of these findings to date.
I would like to highlight some of the key messages we draw from the still ongoing evaluation of CHEPs developed and implemented by the SPEAR project. The SPEAR approach offers different opportunities for peer learning, exchange, and reflection. This has been emphasized as a great strength of the project and has contributed to its success. One important and effective feature of this peer learning were the so-called learning and support clusters, which fostered the collaboration within a country cluster, for instance in Bulgaria or Lithuania, and also contributed to mobilizing other stakeholders on the national level beyond the SPEAR consortium. The SPEAR evaluation also made evident that although Horizon Europe has introduced formal criteria how CHEPs should be designed, which is of course a great lever for mobilizing research organizations and their top management to develop CHEPs, but these CHEPs cannot follow a one-size-fits-all approach. Rather, it is imperative that these Horizon Europe criteria are translated into a context-sensitive approach that takes into account the specific organizational features, the different levels of awareness and challenges of gender equality work in different departments and faculties. But it should also reflect the specific regional and national context. Therefore, a third point I would like to stress is the importance of a broad stakeholder engagement for an effective gender equality work. A broad network of stakeholders, allies, and collaborators is a great source of support and can offer different resources. The stakeholder engagement strategies of different SPEAR partners established a network of change agents distributed over the different organizational units who implemented CHEP measures aiming at transforming local organizational cultures. Nevertheless, this work of change agents needs to be equipped with sufficient resources and needs to be properly rewarded and recognized by these organizations. Otherwise, it remains informal, invisible work and will put the career development of these change agents, which are mostly women, at risk. Finally, I would like to emphasize that the stakeholder engagement should not be limited to the boundaries of an organization, but should also engage stakeholders from the local, regional, or national context. To wrap up, I think that the SPEAR project shows the relevance of networks of change agents and stakeholders in research organizations as a place of peer learning, reflection, and support, and of the need for more context-sensitive approaches to be able to translate the broader EU objectives into measures and activities that work in a specific organizational context or unit. Thank you.
In all our activities and results, we share a common foundation. It's a joint space that holds us individually and as a community. This is very much what our communities of practice are about. The backbone and the nerve in what we have come to know collectively as the SPEAR magic.
The main point of the SPEAR community of practice is to keep a reflective, charged, communal space open for alive, dynamic explorations on serious issues and also sometimes deep frustrations. This is important for empowering and enabling our members to step into the unknown, but it requires continuous cultivation of the reflective capacity together and the discipline of listening, also when we sit together in reflective silence. Here's a testimony of Martina Schrautner, another of our SPEAR advisors.
I found the atmosphere, the groove at the meeting quite extraordinary and very pleasant. I put this down to 2 points. There was always enough time in the workshops, and silence was also endured. With great added value, in these moments, building on what was heard, new ideas could be developed and unfinished thoughts were also expressed. It was very clear that in such an atmosphere, Much more and also unusual things were brought in, which greatly enriched the workshops for everyone.
And here comes Rachel Palman, also advisor to SPEAR.
It's been a real pleasure to take part in the SPEAR Project's advisory board. In the meetings that I've attended, I've been really impressed by the different topics that have been covered, the space given or allocated for reflection, the humour shown, as well as the positive energy harnessed for a collaborative effort to take forward gender equality plans in very different contexts. The SPEAR partners have been engaged as well as creative in tackling these difficult issues, and the lessons learned from this project will hopefully go on to push forward gender equality throughout the European research area. I've learnt a lot about the difficulties involved in GEP implementation, and I thank you for inviting me into this precious space of reflection.
In SPEAR's COPs, we have experienced honest exchanges and deep inspiration, creative collaboration, expanding joint reflexivity, playfulness, and serious poetry. All of this provides what we know as long-term soul nourishment, and this is something that gives more than our rational selves something to live by.
The format of SPEAR's community of practice takes two forms. The whole consortium at project meetings, and it has been 8 in total, and in smaller learning and support clusters with 3 universities in each. The learning and support clusters have provided a more intimate forum for structured reflections, a safe and confidential space where we support and inspire each other in our GEP implementation process.
Our presentation of SPEAR's objectives, methodology, output, and impact is now coming to an end. As coordinators, we want to emphasize that SPEAR has been and done all and much more than what we had dared hope and dream 5 years ago. The SPEAR Consortium is dedicated, serious, and ambitious, and has a deep desire to make a positive difference, to be and create the change we strive for. We continuously draw on high levels of creativity, leadership, and responsibility, and we've been collaborative and open throughout, to each other, to new approaches, to learning, to exploring openings and forging alliances. And the consortium has, with this, been able to set ambitious objectives and follow through with integrity and ingenuity. We, Leo and I, have often been deeply touched by the sincerity, warmth, and generosity of our partners, and the readiness and ability to stand together as a consortium, also when we're faced with tough decisions. In the face of our daily complexities and challenges, this has given us experience and confidence that this kind of inspiring collaboration contributes significantly to the dynamics, values, and ethics of an equal, inclusive, and visionary academia, and in the end also to a democracy with heart and soul and a world we can live in and with. We want to thank the European Commission for this opportunity.
And thank you for your interest in SPEAR. We will now connect live to our conference venue in Copenhagen to present the consortium. Thank you.
So now we all learned about these multiple things that the SPEAR project did. I'm really happy to invite all the SPEAR members up on stage here. Please, you know who you are. Come join me here. So the people here in the room get to see what a fantastic consortium this is from up close. Come on.
Half the room is now on stage.
Yeah. Exactly. Half the room gets on stage. Please, come on. Come on.
Until I take a few pictures.
Sure.
So can you hear what I say? You can hear what I'm saying.
I'm tall, so I can be. No, you go front. I'm going front. Tall.
Yeah, we are matching.
Okay.
So we asked 2 questions about consortium.
Okay.
We asked 2 questions about consortium. And the first question, we will read some of the answers that we got. And the readers are not necessarily the ones who gave the response. We just want to say this, okay? So we asked these 2 questions. And the first question is?
Yeah. What sphere impact are you proud of how this all?
Okay, here is on behalf of our colleagues from Copenhagen University, we volunteered to do their part. So the proudest moment for the Copenhagen University sphere team is when the European Commission noticed the Plovdiv University Gender Equality Plan, which is the first officially adopted GAP among Bulgarian higher education institutions, and the Plovdiv approach to gender equality work in particular. The Commission included this as an example in the Horizon Europe guidance on gender equality plans issued in 2021, and also invited the Plovdiv University SPEAR team to present their GAP at trainings on GAPs it organized targeting Bulgaria. It's an appreciation of their hard work, perseverance, and dedication to the SPEAR cause that they're very proud of. One of the impacts of the SPEAR project that we are most pleased and proud of is the fact that we have managed to bring together a team of Vilnius University colleagues who value gender equality and to enable a genuine dialogue between administrative staff and teaching and research staff. It is now a team where we can not only share information, generate ideas, and find ways to implement them, learn together, but also more safely share our experiences and empathies and have understanding and support. We are also very happy and proud of our allies in Lithuania, our SPEAR colleagues from Vytautas Magnus University. The SPEAR project has brought us together for a professional and effective collaboration in promoting gender equality, not only in our universities, but also in Lithuania more broadly. When we are many, we can do more.
In Nova, which was born under the sign of revolution that won democracy in Portugal 50 years ago, the campaign for gender equality in university is 2 decades prior to the adoption of SPEAR. But SPEAR has brought the fair recognition to this pioneering effort, and this is an outcome I am particularly proud of.
And this time for the University of Rijeka, as you can see, we already networked, so the Slavic part is always together. So for the University of Rijeka, what we are proud of, the creation of sustainable institutional gender equality policies, not only gender equality plan, but also the other legal acts and procedures that we actually adopted, that have been preceded by both quantitative and qualitative analysis, and also establishment of relevant bodies at our university, University of Rijeka. Many practices that we consider to be best practices also for the other universities of Croatia, and they also consider it that way. The whole process that has had and continues to have, as you can all see and hear and experience, a snowball effect.
Short and to the point, not only Croatia. Something to be proud of is the impact that even other partners have had in their national and regional contexts.
At RWTH, gender equality work has had a long-standing history, with the first Equal Opportunities Officer appointed in 1991. During the runtime of SPEAR, the university has adopted a new central gap with 16 decentral gaps at the level of the faculties, the central administration, and the central units. From our perspective of RWTH, the evaluative component of SPEAR has been very impactful for further development of our GE work.
Thank you very much. And I think we had another question that we would also have some responses to, but we think now that we are ready for something else. Is that okay with all of you? Is that okay with all of you? Yes? Okay, very good. So look at all this wealth. Thank you very much. And now, Yvonne. I think we're ready for the next. Oh, that's double off, sorry. Sorry.
No, yeah, it is. Okay, then thank you very much for joining us all here today, this fantastic SPEAR consortium and the wisdom that they brought to us. Now it's time to sort of digest that wisdom a little bit for a 15-minute break. Not before I said goodbye to the people back home. Thank you very much for being with us here today. This will now return to a live-only event, and we will reconvene next door for the kaleidoscope of sister projects in 15 minutes. Please, there is a break now.